What if everything you thought you knew about one of the most famous curses in human history was built on fear, coincidence, and a single lie? Before we begin, I want you to do something. Turn off the lights in your room. Sit back. And imagine this. A man lies on a bed in a luxurious hotel in Cairo. His breathing is heavy. His skin burns with fever. The clock slowly approaches the early hours of the morning. And then, at a precise moment, he takes his final breath. At that exact second, the city outside is swallowed by darkness. Power vanishes. The sky cracks open with lightning. Thousands of miles away, in a quiet English countryside home, a dog suddenly begins to scream. Not bark. Not whine. Scream. And moments later, it collapses and dies. No one can explain it. But this was only the beginning. If you're fascinated by real mysteries, unexplained deaths, and the dark side of history, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now. Because what you're about to hear is not just a story. It's a puzzle that has haunted the world for over a century. This is the story of the Pharaoh's Curse. The story begins not with death, but with obsession. For years, a man named Howard Carter searched for something that many believed did not even exist anymore. A forgotten king. A lost tomb buried beneath layers of sand and time. He was not born into privilege. He was not formally educated. In fact, he was a sick child who spent more time at home than in school. The only skill he inherited from his father was the ability to paint. But sometimes, history is not written by the most powerful people, it's written by the most persistent ones. At a young age, Carter's talent caught the attention of a wealthy aristocrat. A man who would change his life forever. Lord Carnarvon. Carnarvon had already spent years and an enormous fortune chasing a dream that refused to reveal itself. Season after season, excavation after excavation, nothing. Just sand, heat, and disappointment. And then came the final warning. This would be the last attempt. If nothing was found this time, the funding would stop. The dream would end. Imagine the pressure. Years of work. A lifetime of hope. All resting on one final dig. Then came a moment that would change history forever. A single step, carved into the rock. At first, it didn't seem like much. But to Carter, it was everything. His instincts told him that this was not random. This was deliberate. Hidden. Waiting. As the workers cleared the debris, more steps appeared. One after another, leading downward. Like a staircase into the unknown. At the bottom, there was a sealed door. Covered in ancient plaster. Marked with a royal seal. A symbol that had not been seen intact in centuries. This was no ordinary grave. This was something untouched. Something preserved. Something waiting. When the final layer of dust was cleared, a name emerged. Tutankhamun. A king forgotten by history. A ruler erased from records. And yet, here he was. Sleeping beneath the earth for over 3,000 years. When Carter finally made a small opening in the door, something strange happened. Warm air escaped from inside. Air that had not been touched by the outside world for millennia. He held up a candle. The flame flickered. Shadows danced. And then, he saw it. Gold. Endless gold. Objects untouched by time. A treasure beyond imagination. Behind him, Carnarvon asked a simple question. Can you see anything? And Carter replied with words that would echo through history. Yes, wonderful things. But what he didn't know was that this discovery would soon be followed by something far more terrifying than anything inside that tomb. Because almost immediately, strange things began to happen. One of the earliest incidents seemed small at first. Almost insignificant. Carter owned a small bird. A golden canary. A symbol of luck. One day, his assistant returned home and heard a sound that froze him in place. A sharp, desperate cry. When he rushed to the cage, what he saw made his blood run cold. A cobra. Inside the cage. Its jaws wrapped around the bird. In Egyptian culture, the cobra was not just an animal. It was a symbol of royal power. A protector of kings. To many, this was not an accident. This was a warning. And soon, the warnings turned into deaths. Lord Carnarvon, the man who had funded the entire expedition, suffered what seemed like a minor incident. A small insect bite on his face. Nothing unusual. But in a time before antibiotics, even the smallest wound could become deadly. The bite became infected. The infection spread. Fever took over his body. And despite medical advice, he ignored the warnings. Until finally, he died. But it wasn't just his death that terrified people. It was everything surrounding it. The blackout in Cairo. The death of his dog. The timing. The coincidences. It felt orchestrated. And then came something even more dangerous than any curse. The media. Newspapers began to publish headlines that captured the imagination of the world. The curse of the Pharaoh. Death comes to those who disturb the tomb. With every new death, the story grew stronger. A wealthy visitor dies suddenly after seeing the tomb. A scientist falls ill. A journalist collapses. A nobleman jumps from a building after hearing tragic news. One by one, names were added to a growing list. Each death more mysterious than the last. Each headline more dramatic. And slowly, a narrative formed. This was no coincidence. This was revenge. An ancient king, striking back from beyond the grave. But here's where things start to fall apart. Because when fear takes control, logic disappears. Let's look closer. Most of the people who died were already ill. Some were elderly. Others were living in a time when even a simple infection could be fatal. There were no antibiotics. No advanced treatments. No modern medicine. What seems shocking today was often normal back then. And yet, no one wanted to hear that. Because the truth is rarely as exciting as the myth. Then there was the so-called curse itself. A warning that was supposedly written at the entrance of the tomb. Death shall come on swift wings to whoever disturbs the Pharaoh. It sounds ancient. It sounds powerful. It sounds real. Except, it wasn't. There is no evidence that such an inscription ever existed. In fact, experts later discovered that the wording did not even match the language of ancient Egypt. It matched something else. A modern imagination. A story, created, exaggerated, and spread. And perhaps the most chilling part of all, is how it began. Not with a supernatural force. But with a simple human reaction. A reporter asked about a curse. And instead of denying it, someone smiled. Just one smile. That was enough. Because once an idea enters the public mind, it grows. It evolves. It becomes something bigger than the truth. But let's go even deeper. Science eventually stepped in. Studies were conducted. Records were analyzed. And what they found was surprising. There was no unusual pattern of death among those who entered the tomb. In fact, many of them lived long lives. Longer than average. Howard Carter himself, the man who opened the tomb, lived for many years after the discovery. If the curse was real, he should have been the first to die. But he wasn't. He survived. And when people asked him about the curse, he gave a simple answer. I am still alive. So what about the mysterious events? The blackout? Power cuts were common in Cairo at the time. The dog's death? The timing didn't even match. The mark on the mummy's face? A claim made by a newspaper, competing for attention. And then there's the fungus. Hidden inside ancient tombs for thousands of years. Invisible. Dangerous. Capable of infecting the lungs and causing severe illness. A real threat. A scientific explanation. But not nearly as dramatic as a curse. So people ignored it. Because fear is powerful. And stories are even more powerful. But maybe the most fascinating part of this entire story is not the curse itself. It's the man at the center of it all. Tutankhamun. A young king. Born into a broken royal family. A child forced onto a throne during one of the most chaotic periods in Egyptian history. His body was weak. His health fragile. He suffered from genetic disorders caused by generations of inbreeding. He could barely walk without support. And yet, after his death, he was almost completely erased from history. His name removed. His legacy forgotten. For thousands of years, no one spoke his name. And in ancient Egyptian belief, that meant something very specific. A person truly dies when their name is forgotten. So think about this. A forgotten king, buried in silence. Until one day, a man with nothing but determination brings him back into the world. And suddenly, his name is everywhere. Spoken across continents. Printed in newspapers. Discussed in homes. Remembered. In a strange way, the curse did exist. Not as death, but as immortality. Because Tutankhamun achieved something that very few people ever do. He became unforgettable. Now I want to ask you something. If the curse was never real, why did so many people believe in it? Was it just coincidence? Was it fear of the unknown? Or was it something deeper, something human? Our need to find meaning in chaos. To connect events that may not be connected. To believe that the world is controlled by forces we cannot see. And here's the final question. If you had stood at that tomb, in that moment, with darkness all around you, and history buried beneath your feet, would you have opened it? Or would you have walked away? Let me know what you think. And if you want more stories that blur the line between reality and the unknown, make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes, the truth is far more unsettling than the myth.